Hello, and welcome back to another episode, friends. So, today we're actually going to be talking about gut health and menstrual health, and that's because I feel like I'm constantly learning things, but one of the things that keeps coming up in research is the relationship between our gut and everything else, right? And I love talking about like your gut and your period. So I figured, why not pop on the mic, talk to the girlies, and give them the lowdown on gut health and menstrual health. Now, there's a few points of reference that I want to talk about with you. So, first and foremost, if you did not listen to the episode about the vaginal microbiome, you might want to listen to it because it's really relevant to UTIs, yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and all of that, right? But number two, listen, I feel like by now all of you have seed probiotic, but in the event that you don't, in the event that you are dealing with hormonal acne, you're dealing with bloat, you're dealing with period poops, you're dealing with digestion related issues, I'm gonna need you to slide down to the show notes, order your seed probiotic with my discount, okay, Berri 15, and get into it because we're walking into 2023 as our best self, okay? We're not waiting for it to get here, we are her now, okay? Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and just like riff and talk about like gut health and menstrual health. So on TikTok the other day, God, I can't believe I just said that, but on TikTok the other day, I posted that something that said, if your gut health is good, your menstrual health is great. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And the reason I believe that is because your microbiome, right? The gut microbiome is a community of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that live in your body and mostly in your large intestine and your skin. Okay? These whole microbiome situation related things, this bacteria, whether good or bad, okay, plays a huge role throughout your entire body, including regulating your digestion, your mood, and supporting your immune system. Your gut microbiome quite literally takes its cues and gets its whole vibe and everything from your hormones. And with that being said, it can definitely influence your menstrual cycle. We've done an entire episode talking about one, your hormones in balance versus imbalance, right? And we've done another entire episode about your menstrual cycle and the intricacies. So I'm not going to spend too much time like recapping that, but because your gut microbiome is getting direction from your hormones, it's going to directly influence your menstrual cycle. Without a diverse, like, friend group, right? That's basically what it is. Without diverse, friendly bacteria, it's very easy for the bad bacteria to kind of overtake. When that happens, it causes some type of imbalance. Now, we know this imbalance as dysbiosis, and dysbiosis can actually be directly linked to your mood, your metabolism, your immunity, and of course, your period. Now, what most people don't realize is that there are certain bacteria in your gut that are actually in charge of managing your estrogen metabolism. And I'm not sure if we've talked estrogen metabolism a lot, but here's a brief overview. Essentially, estrogen metabolism is the process of estrogen being eliminated from the body through metabolic conversions. And I mean, that's really the easiest way to explain it, but specifically through like our stool and things like that, or in other words, our poop. Right? Now, this community of bacteria that are in charge of really managing estrogen metabolism is called your estrol balloon. okay? Estrogen is obviously produced mostly in the ovaries and it's circulated throughout all of your body where it can really act on other tissues and organs. Well, eventually that active estrogen gets filtered through the liver, which is supposed to deactivate it and send it off to your gut. When you have a balanced estrol balloon, most of that deactivated estrogen is eliminated from the body through your poop. But in the event that your gut is not doing its job the right way, in the event that your gut unfortunately isn't as healthy or functioning as properly, certain bacteria can actually reactivate the inactive estrogen in your gut, and it produces a specific enzyme that I like to call beta G, mostly because I can't pronounce the word. I think it's like glucuronate glucuronidase or something like that. I don't know. All I know is if there's too much beta G present, if there's too much bacteria present in your gut, active estrogen gets sent back into circulation, and this actually will cause that imbalance. This can actually cause what a lot of people know as estrogen dominance. Now, estrogen dominance is code name we've got problems. Okay, it's code name, well, since this didn't get eliminated, we're gonna wreak havoc, and is associated with painful periods, all of the PMS symptoms, frankly, but also heavier bleeding, irregular cycles, and so on and so forth. So, we want our body to be eliminating estrogen properly. And in order for the body to eliminate estrogen properly, we want to make sure our gut is functioning properly. We want to optimize our gut health, because when our gut health is in optimal shape, optimal function, we can essentially eliminate most menstrual health issues. Now, in addition to this, I want to state something about estrogen dominance. A lot of times people talk about it and they're like, oh, I have estrogen dominance. And I'm like, okay, well, where are you at in your cycle? And they're like, oh, I just finished my period. And I'm like, look, Sherlock, I love you so much, but your estrogen is going to be higher in the first half of your cycle, much higher in the first half of your cycle than it is in the second half of your cycle. Why? Because that's that natural hormonal fluctuation. Now, if you say, no, sis, my estrogen levels were actually much higher when I was in my luteal phase than it even was when I was menstruating, or better yet, in my follicular phase, okay, I'll give you some grace. But make sure you know the difference between hormonal imbalances and hormonal fluctuations, because a lot of people are walking around right now giving me, I have a hormonal imbalance, and really it's a simple fluctuation. They don't understand their bodies, but I digress. So keep that in mind. But to kind of get back on track, when your body, in your gut specifically, is able to reduce estrogen the way it's supposed to, this means better menstrual health. Now, if your estrogen, right, if this dysbiosis is still present, it's going to make for those worse periods and PMS symptoms. Now, you might be thinking, great, sis, love that so much, but how do I get rid of it? There's a lot of ways you can get rid of it. The first and foremost thing, you guys know, I'm reduce your stress, okay? Get that in check. Okay. The next thing is really taking time to learn how to eat in sync with your cycle. Of course, my cycle syncing cookbook, the digital one, is linked in the show notes for you, so you can do that. But in addition to that, you may want to consider increasing your fiber intake. I've noticed that a lot of people are afraid of fiber, and that's because the media would make you think that sugar from fruit is bad. No, don't listen to them. So getting high fiber fruits and veggies is a really great idea, as well as your fermented foods. Limiting your refined sugars and, of course, your alcohol are really going to help you, and even caffeine are going to help you do what you need to do. But lastly, getting a probiotic in. Now, you might be like, Berri, what is the deal with probiotics? Why am I seeing this every single where? And how do I know if a probiotic is actually good or bad for me? First, the reason you want to get a pre and probiotic in boils down to the fact that you simply want to be as confident as possible with the diversity of your microbiome, both your gut microbiome and your vaginal microbiome, right? The good bacteria is what you're needing. And so that is why everyone and their mother is telling you you need this. However, what a lot of people are doing, unfortunately, is they're buying the cheap probiotics and they're getting the runs. And that's why I recommend Seed. Seed is one of the most clinically researched probiotics out there. The amount of good bacteria in it actually does something for you. Now, I want a preference. There's a big difference between like a good bowel movement, okay, from your probiotic and like a runny one, right? So I'm just going to put that out there. And the reason I'm saying that is from personal experience. So before I started taking the Seed probiotic, I wasn't taking a probiotic. Then I started taking the Seed probiotic and I was like, I love this. Then I think it was October or November of 2021, I switched to a different probiotic. And wow, my poops were oily. And that never has happened to me. Like, that's so weird in my opinion, right? But that told me that the probiotic that I was taking was a low quality probiotic. In order to know if your probiotic is good or bad, there's a few things that we want to look out for. And I just want to preface that it is not just about the CFUs when you're picking out a probiotic. If you've never heard the term CFU, it is colony forming units. I think a lot of people assume that, like, oh, if there's enough CFUs, this has to be good. No, no, no. Y'all know it's not that simple. So first, we need to think about, where is the origin of this? Does the probiotic come from humans or is it derived from soil or other animals? Okay, this does matter. Another thing that matters is the type of strain of bacteria and the species, right? So Lactobacillus acidophilus is different from Lactobacillus randomus, and within each species there are hundreds and thousands of strains, and that's one of the things that really does matter, okay, when it comes to your probiotic. You also want to know, like, if there was testing done, was the specific strain shown to confer a live microbe mediated health benefit as evidenced in clinical studies. Don't just go willy-nilly buying stuff because you saw, so-and-so doing it, right? Like, you guys know me, I have a standard when it comes to the supplements I take. I do have a preference that, one, they're either clinically studied, or two, the brands show me receipts that say, no, in these 5 studies conducted, saffron was shown to enhance mood. Like, I'm definitely one of those people. I'm a very educated buyer. But Now we have to think about the potency. This is like the CFU, right? So CFU again refers to colony forming units, which basically tells you how many bacteria in your probiotic are capable of dividing and forming its own little colonies. A bigger number on the bottle doesn't always mean that you're going to have better results. The best dose per strain is the one that's been studied in humans and shown to deliver positive outcomes. And a CFU specifically has become a really good marketing tool. You know how people talk about like greenwashing? Like if someone says like, "Oh, this is clean." That's basically a CFU. But what people aren't talking about is that a lot of CFUs aren't able to survive the trip from a store shelf, let alone through your body in the acidic environment to your gut. Okay? So keep that in mind. Now, there's actually a new form of measurement coming out called AFU, which is active fluorescent units, but I honestly don't know enough to explain it in words are hard. I don't know enough about AFUs to explain it in a very articulate way, but I do think it's just, one of those things to keep in mind. If you're shopping for a probiotic and you're not getting the one that I recommend, which I don't know why you wouldn't get the one I recommend and the one I personally take, especially if I have perfect periods, right? See if they've updated to AFUs. If they're still using CFUs, then obviously we want to make sure that you're not only aware of, the origin and the species and strain, but also the testing. You also want to consider the survivability and viability. So maybe you don't know this, but our stomach is pretty acidic. And because it's so acidic, it's actually pretty difficult for microbes in our food and our dietary supplements to survive and make their way through the stomach to the small intestine alive in order to carry out a full range of functions to really support the rest of the gut. The realities of our digestive system, okay, really does keep changing. But when you have the proper probiotic, one that's been clinically studied, one that has AFUs, one that is quite literally designed to survive and produce the proper colonies, you can really thrive the way that you want to. So you might be like, listen, Berri, I don't have a lot of time in my day to research the best probiotic. Why do you think I'm telling you, friend? I'm telling you, this is the one, okay? This is what the kids need. But you also might be thinking, well, I don't understand what all this means, how it's related to like what I'm ingesting. So let me just simplify this. When you're taking a probiotic, you want to make sure that once it goes in your mouth, it can make it through your stomach to your gut. The best way to know this is to look at different clinical studies and research shown to support said probiotic. If you don't see that in your probiotic, if you don't know that that's present, if nobody's talking about it in their marketing, if nobody is like backing it straight up, like, and I'm not talking about like influencers and people, I'm talking about like scientists. If there are scientists not actually standing behind this, you might want to reconsider your probiotic. And the probiotic that I take is actually a pre and probiotic. So the outside is a prebiotic situation. The inside is the probiotic. The prebiotic is helping it get through the acidic environment of our stomach specifically and make its way to the small intestine. It's a 2-in-1 situation. It also is making sure that the viability of the 53.6 billion probiotic bacteria get through the process of digestion, which allows it 100% of the probiotic to live and get to where it needs to go so that Berri doesn't have painful periods, so that you don't have problematic periods, right? So, with that being said, it's actually going to conclude today's episode, and that's just because I think you now understand the importance of prioritizing your gut health so that you can have better menstrual health. And if you are somebody, again, that's looking for a good probiotic, make sure you head to the show notes, purchase the Seed Probiotic. Specifically, it's the one that I take, it's the one I can vouch for. You can use my discount code BERRI, so BERRI 15, number 1, number 5, to save 15%. As always, I am sending you big love and flowy vibes and friends. If you're not subscribed to this podcast, please do so. If you have not left a 5-star rating, please do so. It definitely helps. And what is on the horizon for later this year, but also for 2023, is beyond incredible. And I can't wait to share it with you. So I'll check in with you soon.